So I've got somewhat of a treat for you today, and for myself as well. I am coming to you from a 200 plus acre mango orchard in the Coachella Valley near the Salton Sea, near Indio, California. And this orchard was started back in the early 80s with about 10 acres and grew from there. What's really cool about this orchard is A, it's the largest one in California by far. B, the weather here, the extreme heat and cold, is nearly identical to that of Phoenix, Arizona. So they are getting in the 115s plus in the summer, and then the high 20s, low 30s for brief periods in the winter. This shows it's entirely possible to commercially grow mangoes in our environment. A few different points that I'm going to touch on as we go along are how they're growing them, how they got started, how they're maintaining the trees, how they're dealing with weather. In fact, I want to deal with the weather first. So first of all, you could see this white substance that is coating the trees here. This is to help prevent sunburn. It cools the trees off a bit. It's a product called Surround, and it is an organic product that basically cools the tree off. And what they're telling me is that when the trees are treated with Surround, that they'll get a little bit more growth in the summer. The tree has a little bit more energy and it's a little more motivated to grow. 2, it helps protect the fruit from sunburn. I guess that's one of the 2 biggest issues here. So what they try to do is, when they can, and there's obviously 200 acres of trees, they'll, on the outside of the rows, the west-facing edges of the rows, they'll try and tuck the fruit to the inside of the trees so they don't get too badly sunburned. I'll show you an example here coming up. And apparently this product coats the foliage pretty well. It'll stay on there until they get a hard rain, which they only get 2 inches of rain here a year, so I don't know when exactly that happens, but it doesn't stick very well to the fruit. So here's a good example. Starting to get a little bit of sunburn. Here's a better example here. So the fruit will burn here, which means it's going to do it for us in Phoenix. So they definitely need to be shaded some way. So the Surround product is good for the foliage, not necessarily the greatest for the fruit. If you're growing on a large scale like this, there's really not a lot you can do to protect all of the fruit. But if you've got 1 or 2 trees at home, bagging them or tucking them behind the foliage, using some shade fabric, or placing your trees in a morning sun, afternoon shade environment is going to be best. Now they are primarily growing Keats here. And they're growing Keats because Keat is a late season, late ripening mango. So if you're a mango farmer here in the West Coast and your mangoes are ripening in June, July, and August, you have to compete with the inexpensive Manilas out of Mexico, and the prices are somewhat down. If you have a mango that ripens mid to end of September, you get a lot more money for it. So for that reason, they are primarily growing Keats. Winter is a little bit of an issue that they need to deal with, and they do that through irrigating when needed on the cold nights. Also, they have 10 different turbines on the property, the wind machines that are run on propane. And those machines are worth 3 to 4 degrees of temp when those are turned on. Now here in the Coachella Valley, they're not on clay or caliche like we are in Phoenix. They actually have really good mango growing soil. By that, I mean a lot of sand, really good drainage, not much organic material, but really good drainage. For that reason, they're able to use jet emitters, basically sprayers. You can see they're on right now. So they don't need to flood their trees they don't use bubblers because they have really good drainage. So in Phoenix, if you've heavily amended your soil and your water disappears after 30 seconds, you could get away theoretically with drip lines if they're running long enough. It's working for them here. They don't do much in the way of feeding their trees because most of the farm here, they're trying to run it as organic for financial reasons. They get more money for the fruit. So they're not doing much other than a bit of compost. That's really about it. The pH of their soil here runs in the mid to high 7s. So it is lower than ours. They are using a sulfur burner to help bring that down as well too. Their water source is the Colorado River. They have pretty much unlimited water here. They pump out of the ground. The water is not too bad. So they don't have to deal with necessarily all the issues that we have in Phoenix, but those are easily dealt with. This is pretty cool. I never thought I would see a mango orchard in the West Coast. The trees look like ghosts. Kind of a trip pulling up. I thought maybe they had been oversprayed with too much water, and the salt in the water, the calcium was building up on the trees. So it was kind of interesting to hear that this is something that's done intentionally and it benefits the trees. Helps to cool them off. A little bit more growth in the growing season, which is summer. They've shared with me that they have the same issue with growing mangoes in the summer that we do in Phoenix. That up to about 110, the trees are fine. The young tender growth is fine. But once you get above that, you're starting to get into the 113s, 115s, and the humidity is low, the new tender young baby growth is going to shrivel up. Such as this. So this product called Surround apparently helps with that. I did ask them if they ever played with some of the Florida designer mangoes, such as coconut creams and pina coladas and some of the name stuff that we like to play with. They said no, just for logistical reasons. When you're mass producing and mass packing, if you've got multiple varieties that you're playing with, it kind of gums up the work a little bit. So they're doing primarily Keats, and then they have something over here they're developing called the Esquire mango. So again, the highlights here are they have the same winter as we do. They've learned how to deal with it. They've got a lot better soil than we do. A lot of sand. No organic material, but they do add a few times throughout the year some compost and such. They do allow the weeds to grow between the rows. The tall grass, the weeds will act as a ground cover and help cool the ground, retain moisture. They are able to use drip lines because they are on sand. Drains well, drains quickly. They don't shade their trees with shade fabric because they use this product called Surround. And that's kind of the story that I learned today about growing mangoes here in the Coachella Valley near the Salton Sea in Southern California. Lower pH water, lower pH soil, better draining soil. They've been doing it since the early 80s. They obviously know what they're doing. If you have any questions, please ask in our Facebook group, Living the Green Life. Our Instagram page is Seamus_O'Leary_. Hopefully you found this interesting as I did. And that's that. So the next time you're eating keat mangoes and you live somewhere west of the Mississippi River and it's September, October, now you know where they come from.